Hey, Theda,
Oh, there you go.
we're on. Okay. Awesome, 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 everybody. It's good to be here. Hey, Theda, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I just had a wonderful drive into Browning, Montana. So hello everyone. Welcome to the Native Wellness Institute's Power Hour. Gene, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's been a while. It's been
Yeah.
a long time. Yeah, and I just drove into Squaxin Island here and sitting in the parking lot in my little my little fold up chair that I always carry with me. I'm at that age now where I carry fold up chairs with me, so I can just like sit down wherever I'm at.
Well, it's kind of like you got to have your powwow chair, you got to have your cooler, you got to have your extra dry meat in case you're hungry. I mean, we're so nomadic. I mean, this is like so good. So I would like to welcome everyone. This Wellness Wednesday, and what an honor to be with Jean Tagaban. I'm at my mom's home. I come in here so I could just like be with my mom. you, Jean, you kind of, and I just thought this is just such a good time of the season. Our topic today, and we welcome any of your comments, is around the change from summer to fall, and the seasons of our life, the seasons of many things that we're in transition. And so Gene and I, you know how Gene and I are. we just kind of have like a dialogue with you. And so, Gene, uh, is it okay if we just start with a little short prayer?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, I'll start, and I just say, "Hi, Ostapatapiyo, no gaikimokit, no gaspomokit. Hi, Ostapatapi." We just ask you to come and be with us, with all of those watching, all of those who come on with Gene and I. We just ask that you help us really celebrate with a good heart this equinox that comes tomorrow. We just ask that you have us grounded in our mind, body, and spirit, that we just can offer some uplifting words to those that are on with Wellness Wednesday. And Creator, we ask special prayers for those that have left us, and either left our earth physically, or who have just transitioned or left us. Um, Animals, people, places, and things. And we just ask you to give us a good heart to look at our self-care, to look at our wellness of our family, to look at the goals or the intentions that we have, and the words that we use are gentle, and that they're used with kindness. And Anya, I'll pass it to you, Gene, if you want to say some words of prayer.
Oh yeah. So gonna cheese the akao hashigun hashigini gonna cheese. Uh just just uh just words of gratitude and just those prayers for, again, the land that we're on, these trees that I'm surrounded with, the birds that fly overhead, and and the bees that are flying around me, the very air that I breathe right now. It's just I'm really grateful for that, and just to be here, and I just just send good thoughts and prayers and out there to that continued fresh air. And the air right now where I'm at is it's smoky, and so these times of transitions of the fires that are going on, and that change that's happening in other areas, the change that's happening in the seas as well, and there's an acceptance of it as well. Uh, and so many parts of it too. It's just to, so many of our relatives out there who have lost loved ones, or who those loved ones who have made that transition, and and it's hard for us who have been left behind here in this place here to sometimes that acceptance. And so many things that are said in my heart that I cannot say in my words, but there's a presence of it too. So gonna teach our words speak more than or hear our hearts speak more than our words. So gonna teach everybody out there, hear our prayers. Gonna teach gonna teach yeah. And let our prayers, those prayers that we say, as we're saying our prayers, your prayers are coming up as well. Let it be like that pebble that's dropped in that little calm water, and those prayers that just reverberate, right? Just go out, and just those concentric rings keep going out and out and out. That's the power of our prayers, the power of our thoughts, and the power of that energy as well. And so, as Theda was saying too, so we're talking this. We just wanted to discuss a little bit about these seasonal transitions of again summer into fall, the fall equinox, and some of the other things too. And so, what are some of your thoughts with that, Theda? I know we were talking a little bit about it.
Well, I always get really excited at the solstice, like December, 21st. And I always get really excited when the springtime comes, and in March. And then in June, there's always all of our ceremonies always happen, in this area. But I guess, and for most of us, most of I lost an animal June 20th. And it's still fresh in my heart, Gene. Like, June 20th on the equinox of losing Ocon Iron Pipe, after 16 and a half years. And I was sharing with Gene earlier. I said, it's just 90 days. So, sometimes when we're in that transition, we just have to be gentle with ourselves. I'm just being really giving myself time, some tender loving care. and this 90 days. And so like this equinox is kind of like the seasonal marker. And just think about, for our I think about for our tribes, boy, they were smart. God, they were smart that you should have these ceremonies at these markers of the season. And so even though I have a fresh break in my heart, and it's a fresh break, because the grief is just as big as the love. I have this fresh break. I'm just saying to myself, well, I'm going to be really gentle with my sleeping time, my dreaming time, even my eating time, or just walking in the woods. I was sharing with Gene, I just took off early and was in the woods for 2 hours this morning. Like, just took off. And I was looking at the leaves. The leaves, they let you know they're like blowing, but there's some little yellow ones, a couple little red ones, but there's the leaves. And I came up on some grouse, or we call them grouse, but there was 4 of them, and the male was I stopped because when you see animals, I always stop and be still. So he was kind of like chicken dancing, I was like, yeah, that's how you chicken dance. He was like, but he was just telling me, he was like guarding, there was 4 of them. And so I just stopped so that I wouldn't present a threat. And so that's a seasonal change. And then I was just looking, I was sharing with Gene, I was, trying to get out of my driveway, but there was a moose. There was a moose. And so again, I think it's the same moose that I saw calved in the water, because I always say we're making a treaty with them. And so I just shut off the truck, and I just stayed still. And just stayed still so that I didn't present a threat. And then he just he reminds me of a teenager. Like he just said, oh, okay, that's her. I know her. And so he just grabbed some of the more, so he just starts eating the leaves. I'm grabbing my mom's scarf, but he's eating the leaves, and then he looks at me, then he eats some more leaves, and then he looks at me, and then I thought to myself, thank you, Histabatpi. Thank you that I'm still enough, that I'm quiet enough, and that I can enjoy that gentle changing of the season. And then it also, there's this other, and I don't know if it's epigenetics, like here, where like everybody, as soon as we see everyone, they say, "Are you ready for winter?" And then they'll say, I got my propane, but I don't have all my wood yet, or I got, I got out my winter clothes and I'm putting away my flip flops, so there's just like this season, and I don't know, I kind of get excited. So how is it for you, Gene? How is it for you in this transition?
Well, I know my wife already, Ruby, she already told me that, because all summer long I wear my my sandals, and she's feeling in the air, and she's going, "Well, it's be time for you to those sandals be put away again." And her idea of putting them away is hiding them for me, because she hides them all winter long, because she knows I'll grab them, I'll wear them, whenever it's out. So we have this like game all summer, all winter long. It's like I'm trying to find my sandals that she's hidden from me, and the last time she hid it in the most obvious place, and I didn't find them. But anyways, there's some transitions, and as you were speaking, Theda, I couldn't help but, yes, this is this time of transitions, and traditionally amongst the tribes and indigenous peoples, and the Tlingit people, I grew up in Southeast Alaska. It's a time to like take inventory of like, do I have all the berries that I needed to pick? Because the berries are out right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to get out there and pick more berries? Do I have enough food for the wintertime? Salmon, deer, seal, whatever that is. And, am I going to be prepared coming up this winter time? So it's a time to take that inventory. And even in this modern day Western way of thinking too, is like, this is a time for you to take inventory as well. It's like, because school is starting with the kids. Do you have enough school supplies? Are your children okay? Are they okay? Is the house okay? Like, for instance, Ruby and I this weekend, we're going to stain our deck, because we want to preserve it, but we need to get this done before the winter comes, or the rainy seasons come, and so there's that. And our windows, is everything okay? Is our house going to be okay for this coming season, and preparing? And not only that, our vehicles as well, and are they going to be okay? And so it's like, traditionally, yes, we took a look at these inventory and these ways of prepping, but even in this society in the world today, we still it's that seasonal time. It's the time we need to take that inventory now. And even you were talking theater too, and we talked earlier about that, and I just got over COVID. I got pretty ill with this illness. I thought I was going to make it, man. I was like masking up and this, and then it got me, and it hit me pretty hard. And so it's like, right now I'm taking an inventory, especially as I age. I'm like knocking on the door on 60 right now. I'm at 58, and so my health and my wellness and my whole system, this system here, is different now. And so I need to take inventory in a different way than when I was like in my early 50s, or when I was in my 40s, in my 30s and stuff, because all that's a transition as well, and an acceptance, and so there's that. And and as you said, that transition of I just lost my father, just a little over on July 13th. And so the transition of that transition of um of him not being physically present, and it's different. And people keep asking me, how is that? And I said, it's different. It's still settling in with me, how it's different, and it's extremely different. But how do I explain it? And so there's that transition of not having my father, and then my mother now. Really, I had this conversation with my wife about my mother the transition of her really confiding in me now, as far as like, what do you think about this? How about this? How should we do this now? You know, where it used to be my father's role, she would throw those at. Now, as the oldest son of that transition, and and um, and that's, you know, and so there's those, and my mama is still grieving her dog. She lost early in the year of 13 years too, so, and grief is a transition as well. Grief is a transition, and we all have grief, right? We all have grief. We're all grieving in somehow, some way. And my way of seeing grief is like it's like an entity, and each, and grief for our dogs, our family members. It's each individual is different. And so it's like I form a relationship with each one. And as we go on, our relationship changes with it. It's not that grief ever goes away. It's just that we evolve our relationship with it. And so even with my father, my grief is evolving with that, and my relationship with is with grief with my dad is brand new. It's brand new. I'm just a little. I'm a baby in that my grief with my dad, and so it's so that's also a transition too. And so during this time, I'm kind of like want to throw this out there to everybody who's watching, and to share this with your family, share this with your friends, and take notice to uh the transitions. Take notice and take inventory of the transitions, and some of the things that are going on in your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. You know, and take that inventory of it. And again, like Theda was saying, gosh, be gentle with yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves and be kind to yourself. You know, and because it's one of those things. Is because if we're sour about things or angry about things, and I tell people, it's like my grandma used to say, it's like when you're sour and angry, it's just like a fart. You know, and you don't mean it to get on anyone else, but it just does. You know, and instead of farting on everyone, it's like, how can we shine a light on others? Be the light as opposed to being the fart. You know, and it's and and notice when somebody shines their light on you, and it could be just in the form of a smile, or somebody opens the door for you, or you know, or they just notice you, and how Indian way they just notice you and give you the head nod, you know. And so there's those notice of those transitions as well during this seasonal transition, this earth, you know, of this time right now. And so yeah, I'll throw it back at you, Theta. I keep going on and on and on and on here.
No, but I just love listening to you too. So I hope but Gene, thank you for just being so rigorously honest and just transparent. I can say this, it's been 20 years since I lost my father, and I think it's a big growth period. It's a rite of passage. But during that first year after when dad passed, I was just sharing with the family, because we're all trying to be more gentle with each other, during all of our transitions. But man, I got sick like 6 times, and I counted it, because I normally got a really bad cold, and just just was really sick. And I think that one turned into bronchitis. And it was actually Avis Archibald, Avis, because she was trying to teach me acupuncture, and she goes, "Well, you're grieving out loud," she said. She said, "You're grieving out loud, and the grief will always be respiratory. It'll always be your sinuses or your throat." And she said, and again, just like what you're saying, she goes, "That's why you have to be real tender." And me, us, we're kind of like, you go down the mountain on a bicycle, and I'm kind of like, boom, I'm the badass auntie. So I'm trying to be tender. And Avis would say, you got to be more gentle. You got to be really kind. And so that really helped that first year. And I realized she was just so right on because I kind of, it was, some of it was a dream or a blur. And the only reason I knew it is because, everyone knows I always take pictures. That's my passion. I love it. And I would look back at pictures and I go, wow, I must have been an automatic pilot. I would like, wow, I remember being there, but I don't remember much. And so that, be tender with, you don't have to remember everything. Be tender with kind, to yourself. And, I was just, one of the things I'll share, and then I'll, we like to just like pass it back and forth. I was at a Gona, a gathering in Wyoming with our other brother, Marcus. And one of the things that they did there for everybody, for the staff and the community that came in, is they did acupuncture.
Mm.
And it was, she needled me, and when one spot was tender, and she was just saying, you need to watch your large intestine. Like, how do you watch your large intestine? Like, smudge your large intestine. I mean, but I said, oh yeah, it's guilty because I ate a bunch of white bread. I'm really sorry, I'm guilty. And when I'm not supposed to be, when I eat that, I get this feeling, anyway. But they did that, and then they did like a cranial massage, and they did a deep massage. And so, Gene, we carry that stuff in our body. And I'm oldest child too. So as the oldest child, responsibility, I always carried it right here. So man, they had this husband and wife, and they were just like they were like gentle, but they just dug in there. And I swear, when they were done, I felt like all of my worries had just gone away. And then they brought a chiropractic, and she was a badass. She was like she was like this woman that goes to the Sundance and cracks people's neck. Anyway, she got me like this, and she went crack. And then that part where they lay you down and they're gonna surprise you and go crack and crack. But I was like on high alert. I didn't want to. And she goes, "You're not relaxing." I go, "I know, because I know what you're gonna do." but then she went crack, and I just like those three things, man, that really helped that week. We were doing a lot, so I guess what I'm saying is do the things. And of course, I was really wishing for a pedicure and my nails, but sometimes we need to just lay on the ground or lay on your yoga mat.
Mm-hmm.
And stretch around, because that's how that week I would get up real early and I would just lay on the carpet. I was staying with a friend, and I just would stretch around, and I was talking to my body, just saying, I really apologize if I'm being rough on you right now. Is it okay? Is it okay, hips, if you stretch a little? I really want to be more gentle to you back. And so help me out, remind me. And so I was just like talking to, my feet, talking to my ankles, and having a little conversation. Like, I want to be better to you because I want to last a long time, like, Gina, what we talk about, in that Sundance, that spirit that always talks to me said, it just said, you're probably going to live to be 90, but if you want to be walking, there's some things you got to quit. And so I'm really listening to that. So that's some of my thoughts. So what do you think?
That reminds me of like Walter Sobolov, esteemed elder up in Alaska who lived to be 105 years old. And he was still there with you. His body started to just get old. I mean, 105 years old, you get old. People, I mean, he passed on. It's one of those things, people pass on, and like Walter, and they say, how'd he die? He says, he was old. It's like, he's old. That's how he passed on, But Walter, I remember these your words, and everyone who's listening, take these on and write it down, write these words down. Take care. He told me, take care of the old man you're going to be. take care of the old person you're going to be. And so I really took that on as far as because I'm getting to be that old guy, and I do want to be functional. When I'm 90, I still want to be able to walk. I want to be able to ride my bike. I want to be able to get in the water. I want to be able to, if I fall down, I want to be able to tumble and roll and fall gracefully. I want to be able to fall gracefully and get up and be able to get up. I mean, these are some things that I think about now that I didn't think about in when I was younger, definitely. And so, but again, these are transitions that we're thinking about. Take care of the old man I'm going to be, and as we're talking about that as well. And as you're speaking, Theda, we talk about transitions. I have a firm belief that the wellness of the earth is in correlation to how well the women are on the earth. And so that's one reason why I'm such an advocate for the safety and the wellness, the health of women, and men need to get involved in that, and the wellness of men, because the wellness of men also is is in relationship to that too. And I say that because we are a live, living being, right? Mm-hmm. And so is our earth. And now these transitions that are going on, for instance, when my body talks to me, I haven't been really active in the last couple of weeks because I had COVID. I've been really still, actually. In fact, yesterday I took Ruby and I took like a 3-hour nap, which was much needed. And I'll probably take another nap today because my energy is kind of zapped. But my knees have been talking to me saying, okay, you need to do something. You need to move. Like you said, my shoulders, sometimes we hold the weight of the world on our shoulders. Mm-hmm. So our shoulders and our grief and our lungs in that area too. So our bodies talk to us. But do we talk to our bodies? Mm-hmm. Do you say, liver, I love you. I love you, heart. I love you, lungs. I love you, kidneys. Thank you for working properly and functionally. My knees, I love you. Take a little marker. They have wax markers you can buy at the store, and just, don't use a permanent marker, or unless you want to, a permanent Sharpie, and write on your knees, I love you. Write on your elbows, I love you. And write these things, my brain, I love you. Love your brain, love these parts. Maybe you can't, it's hard for you to love yourself as a whole being. Oftentimes I hear people say that. Theda and I, we gave an exercise to people, say every morning you have to look in the mirror for 21 days straight and just say, I love you. And get that to be in a habit. But sometimes that's really hard, but it's easier for people just to say, hey, I love you, my heart. I'm talking to my heart. I love you. I want to take care of you. My lungs, I love you. I want to take care of you. My knees, I love you. I want to take care of you. Please take care of me. And I say that because when we start doing those, because our earth right now, we've had just a major storm up in Alaska, the first one like in 60 years of that magnitude. Mm-hmm. We are getting in the Pacific Northwest. We're getting tornadoes here. Do you believe that? Tornadoes here in places that they're very rare. I mean, if it ever happens, and we're getting salmon and fish in our waters that are going up to Alaska, tuna. You don't find tuna up there or make their way up there and stuff. But what I'm saying that is that our earth is talking to us too. And the earth is making this transitions as well. And how do we notice that around just in our area, just in our yard? The leaves, are they turning a different color earlier or later, or are they on schedule? Mm-hmm. The birds, what are they saying too? And the grasses and the water and the dryness of the earth, or the extreme dampness, floods. And so a lot of that is just like a direct relationship, and to pay attention to that and speak our prayers, like we started earlier, our prayers to that, and pay attention to our system here. Mm-hmm. Speak to your brain. I love my nose. It's big sometimes. Sometimes it's huge. But I love my nose. And Ruby always cuts my eyebrows. She trims my eyebrows all the time. She doesn't want my eyebrows to be like this old guy, like sticky. Because she doesn't want to. She says, when I go to give you a kiss, I don't want your eyebrows to poke me in the eye. And so it's like, so she takes care of me. She trims my eyebrows, and so it's one of those things too. Is that she's got my back. She takes care of me, and I take care of her, and it's that reciprocal thing. She's got my back. Do we have our own back of our system? And does Earth know that we have her back as well? I mean, and so there's kind of tossing that. I know it's kind of out there in that thinking, and especially those who are into urban. I just did this nature connection thing, talk with urban people, and all I asked them to do was just notice the trees. That's all I'm asking you to do. Just notice them. Oftentimes we take for granted, walking down urban areas, cities, and stuff like that. There is trees. There's plant life. There's wildlife around. All I'm asking is just notice them. And when you start noticing those things, it things will start coming to you if we just notice that. And even in our own bodies, just notice it. Just notice your heart beating and your system here. And those are all transitions as well. And of taking inventory of what's going on.
I just love that, Gene. And thank you, because it's like the bigger universe. It's all of those that we're surrounded by, and internal, and I like, so I won't get a permanent marker. But I just to speak to because our heart is so symbolic. It not only gives us blood, but when we have heartache, or we have elated heart, or we have happy heart, I'm just gonna write some things to my heart, and I won't do it in permanent marker. But what you were saying, those transitions of I was sharing with Gene earlier. I said, did you know that Jupiter, I mean, like, who thinks about, I was just like, did you know Jupiter is the closest to the Earth that it's been in 70 years? So there's not like a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I remember Jupiter. I remember Jupiter. But then the thing that blew me away, and I remember, we learned it in school, is, and I asked Gene, I said, did you know how many moons are around Jupiter? And Gene's like, no, tell me. 79 moons. So when you think, I like to, because Nistu Mokoyo Sequoia, my Indian name is the Milky Way. So I always look at it every night. And last night I was out there because I've been trying, and being tender with myself, I've been trying to go to bed before 10. But I went out and I looked at the Milky Way, and then I said, hey, Jupiter, aho, no. It's like, hey, Jupiter, you got 79 moons. We only got one. Dang, your prayers must be really strong. Like, if I could be on you, Jupiter, I would say some prayers for the Earth, just like what you were saying, with the changing of the weather in Alaska. And we were talking about, the hurricanes coming in and all of that. Notice a tree. I think the transition, and that's what our power hour is about, is just for you to think, what brings you wellness? Because when I'm thinking about Jupiter, then it makes me think, wow, I am just this human being with my tribe, with our, virtually we kind of have everything that, and just being, don't get too TikTok-y. Because if you get TikTok-y, I can see people that are TikTok-y, with high and anxiety and getting things done, or it's always adrenaline junkies or chaos junkies, just trying to get, and so pulling it back, like what you were saying, Gene. So I would make the list of your self-care things. Yesterday I always go and I have a real gentle elder that she's just a gentle elder. And so I went to go see her and asked her to paint my face, and that's because in our tribe, and she painted me beaver, and 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 then I just spent the day with her. Everything else I put on pause, or it's like triage your time. All of a sudden, none of that other stuff was as important as spending the entire day with my elder. And it was beautiful because she's just she's like God on earth. Like if you could pull down God and just sit with God and just visit. And we just spending that time, and so we were talking about beaver stories, because she so I want to share the story with you, and I thought about this. I don't know why I think about Eugene, because I'm in the woods. So where I walk, there's some beavers. There's about 4 of them, and they're building their lodge. They've been building this big lodge since 2019, but with the climate change, they're building these bigger ones. It's almost like they're storing food. And so I was walking one day, and there was this log that it's just only about this in circumference and about this long, and they had chewed it at this end and they had chewed it at this end. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, that's beautiful. And they had dragged down the other ones, and I thought, I wonder if I could take it. And anyway, so I ended up putting out my tobacco, and I took it, and I had brought it to my truck. And so this log was driving around our reservation. But so when it was driving around, I kept touching it and saying prayers, like for our people, for our air, for our water, our animals, our children going back to school, all those things you were saying. And then I had this thought, oh, was I supposed to take that? I'm not a beaver. I didn't even ask that beaver's permission. So this is what I did, Gene, is I apologized to the log. I smudged it, and I went and I took it back and I put it right where I found it. And I apologized to that beaver. I just said, I'm sorry. You probably needed this for your house, and I'm just a stupid human being thinking I can take things, and I'm bringing it back. And if you can use it to build your lodge, I would just be really happy to. I apologize. And so the next day, it was gone. He came and got it. Beaver. So my happy thought, tomorrow's the equinox. My happy thought is that log that just drove around my res saying prayers and got smudged is like got tucked in the lodge of that beaver. And that's what the season is about. Find the beauty in the season. And now I'm just going to have comfort all fall, until the first blizzard. I'm going to have comfort, because I know that log that belonged to the beaver, and it belonged to the earth, it belonged to the water, it belonged to the land. And that's a lesson for us humans. We just got to stop abusing our land. I mean, of course we want land back. Okay, all you Europeans, give it back. I mean, it's not going to happen today, but it's like one of those things of, I think this equinox gives us time to think of these things, Gene, just like how and so I'm just going to go near there, I think, till the first blizzard, just put out some tobacco and talk to the beaver. I mean, just say, could you help me out? Can you help me be better with self-care? Just that kind of thing. So what you thinking, Gene?
Oh, I'm just laughing, Theda, because I just imagine that beaver just going, I know I left this here yesterday. Where the heck did that log? I know I left it here yesterday. And looking around, and then suddenly it shows up and said, here it is. Where the heck? I was like, Okay, I've been looking for you. Actually, the beaver saying to the log itself, "I've been looking for you," as opposed to, "I've been looking for this log."
Yeah.
The beaver saying, "I've been looking for you. Where have you been? Where'd you go?" And the log itself, saying, "Oh, you won't believe it. This here lady picked me up and took me around and drove me in her truck. Then she had smoke over me and she said some words and that's that. And then she brought me back. Well, I'll put you in a good place on my lodge and then you can tell me all about it and we can sit and talk about it all winter long."
Yeah.
And that there's that relationship between the log and the beaver. And actually, that'd be a great story. I just might use as a story. But as Theta, as again, this year, seasonal transitions from summer to fall, and then it's fall into winter, because the winter time amongst many of the tribes, indigenous people, we say it's that time to look within. That time to look within, where we sit, because it's cold outside, snowy. Pacific Northwest, it could be really rainy, stormy in that time, those ways, and so we spend a lot of time inside. And it's that time to look within, time to look within ourselves, and so it's like taking it again, fall, from summer into fall, taking inventory. Do we have enough food? Are we prepared for the next season that's coming, winter? And that winter time is time to look within. And so there's there's that season as well. I want to share this real quick, Theta, and these transitions and this here thing of acceptance. One of the things I'm going to start talking about is my birth story. I've been talking to my mom and talking about a transition, birth story. You're with spirit, you're in spirit world, and the next thing you're in this world. Huge transition. I mean, dun, 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 here I am, and here we are in this world. But what is your birth stories? Those who are listening, what's your birth story? And find out, and maybe, and just learn as much as you can about it. And I don't have my death story, because that relationship with death, and Indian people, we, like you said earlier, our people were brilliant. Our people were geniuses. Observed, they noticed the importance of this, but the presence in the ceremony of death. And I've been looking into a lot of this, learning more about it too, with the death of my father. But I'm going to start talking more about, to honor my father. I'm going to speak of his life, yes, but also I'm going to speak of his death story, because it's a beautiful story. Because in that last week of his transition, he had a hard time accepting that he was an accountant. So he had an accountant mind. Everything was like linear. Everything was numbers. Everything was statistics and everything. When you talk about anything spiritual, he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Type thing, it's like, and but then towards the last week, there's an acceptance, and my mother saw it in him, and that he started calling his sisters, his siblings, and people, and just checking in on me. He kept asking, "Is so and so okay? Is my brother okay? My sister's okay? Is my son's okay? Are you going to be okay? How about our dogs?" Asked about our dogs, and part of it too, I think he was like asking, "Are they going to be okay?" But I think he was asking, "Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay?" And so he got to this acceptance, and my mother said, when that time came, he was talking normal, in a calm voice, and his breathing, because he had advanced cases of emphysema, and so, but his breathing became easy,
Yes.
more relaxed.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so there was that time when he did make the transition. In his transition, I always told him, "Pops, I'm going to be the one who's whispering in your ear. That time, I'm going to be whispering in your ear, let you know you're not alone in this world. I know your ancestors, and and ancestors did come. I know that for a fact. And so I was driving down the road, and my mom called me, and she said, "This is your time. Your father is starting to make his transition, his dying." And I said, "Put the phone up to his ear. Can you do that?" And she said, "Yes." So she put it on speaker and put it up to his ear, and I was whispering to his ear and talking to him. And then my mom said, "He's gone. He just took his last breath."
Yeah.
And so, and it was so calm. It was so easy in that transition. And so part of that, as I say that story, I pray that for everybody when that time comes, that we make that transition in a gentle, easy way, in a spiritual way, you know, and that way, that transition, you know, and so I wanted to speak on that, you know, because, and to think about it too, is like, for everybody out there, yeah, those transitions, those major transitions as well. I mean, and so yeah, so I just wanted to speak on that a little bit, you know, and share that a little bit, Theda.
No, no, thank you, Gene. Just thank you, because it helps all of us when you talk about dad. And I know there's an old Indian saying, you know, like I'm an old Indian, but when I used to listen to some other old Indians, you know, but they used to say, when you come into this world, you'll be crying and everybody will be smiling. And when you leave this world, everybody will be crying and you should be smiling. So right when you said that word acceptance, you know, that preparation of when we journey, and I'm really glad that your mom held the phone so you could whisper in his ear and say things to him before that that last, because you know they'll say, tell a lot of sayings, tell your last breath. And of course, you know, that's because in a part of the acceptance I feel, having near-death experiences, you know, is that we accept when we don't fight anymore, and we welcome the transition from leaving this spiritual body we always live. And you know, because when I was about 8, I did drown, and but I was brought back, and I just remember when I accepted and surrendered, I remember I was going down underneath the water, and I was praying because my grandma Awatski, I was thinking, so I thought, you know, I'm 8 years old, and I thought, oh shoot, this is kind of bunk, I'm gonna die. You know, like, and then I thought, what did grandma say? Oh, I'm supposed to pray. So I'm like praying, and but I didn't have no fear. I just started praying as I was drowning, and I just remember praying, and I guess that's the 8-year-old acceptance. And I thought, that's kind of bunk, I was planning on living longer, you know? But I just said these prayers, and my mom jerked me out by my hair, and I just remember water coming out of my nose. And so, and you know, and the part that scared me is when my dad started yelling at me, you know, because when dad would yell, would like, ah! You know? because he was just yelling because he loved me so much, just because he just ruthlessly loved me as his child, and I had almost drowned, and so he was yelling at, what the hell are you doing, you know, like that kind of stuff. But then that acceptance, I wanted just to I was just thinking about that. I attended a very big event this last weekend with our icon, Shasheen Littlefeather, that challenged the movie cinema industry 50 years ago. And she's got a 4th-stage cancer, and she is in transition, but she's such a badass, Gene. She, you know, she never was a user or a drinker. And, you know, they had her on some pain pills and some morphine, and she just said to herself, I don't want to be like this. And so she cold turkey and got off the morphine and the pain meds. And she was using alternative medicine, cranial stuff and acupuncture and massage. And I saw her in her beauty of acceptance and speaking, just, it was like a glorious thing to receive that, not only while she's alive, this apology, but it was just a glorious thing because everyone around her just cherished her and loved her. And she even, here she is in this level of pain. And one of the things that she would say is, she said, I'm taking this pain and I offer it up, just like in a ceremony. And that's the equinox ceremonies, the Sundance ceremonies, the Longhouse. She said, I offer it up. And she said, and it's something, when I offer it up, I offer that pain up for the people I offer it up. She said it lessens. So she knew how to, in an Indian way, and so I mentioned that because I got to spend a lot of time with her on Zoom and then in person. But she was so in acceptance, and so we had to do everything slow and not antagonize her or not. So she wanted to, we helped in the green room to put on her favorite beaded moccasins, and she had lost her partner of 32 years, Mr. Charles, and he was a Southern dancer, and he had this most beautiful otter with mirrors, and so we got to dress her. And then I was like, she let me select the earrings, and so of course I select the bling bling, I just like, woo, it's got to be these. But we took time and gently dressed her, and she was just smiling in that acceptance. She was just smiling in just and then was able to go on with the evening, answer questions. And you know what else she did, Jean? And that's just why she's just so badass is she, it's in the museum, it's Hollywood, they got the red carpet kind of stuff, but they have all of the ushers. They let her as much time as she could give. People come and greet her and take a photo with her. People stood in line for 4 hours. And you know what? She hugged every damn one of them. She hugged them tight. And then she would pose with them. And then she would get her smile. And she was doing that, because I would just look and I would just start crying myself. And I just thought, wow, what dignity of acceptance. Wow, what kind of integrity she had with Ishtabat to be our creator, our God. And just doing one at a time, keeping it simple. She was so present. She wasn't going off in the future, and she forgave some stuff. She even forgave John Wayne. So she had forgiven this stuff, and she was just present. So that's some of my thoughts, Jean. In this transition, this equinox, it's good for us just to be present, and and like just live this 24 hours. Eat good, be around people who love you, and then sleep good. Just that's so I guess I have those thoughts. So what are you thinking, Gene?
Oh no, you're talking about that with Shisheen, and and I saw some of the pictures that you shared, and she was just beautiful, and her eyes, if anybody gets a chance to see those pictures with Shisheen and her eyes, and I got to meet her in April and had my picture with her in April, and got a hug from her, and just her again, like you said, presence, and there's an acceptance of where she's at, with who she is, and so she could be a role model for all of us, and like maybe ask the question for yourself during these transitions, because struggles are also transitions where we have hard times in life, eh? And just ask the question, is like, how would Shasheen do it? How would Shasheen do it? I say that to myself often too. Many of my teachers and elders, how would Lois do it, or how would Ghislaine do this, or even I say, how would Coyote handle this, or Raven, how would they handle this, or do this, but and it's those ones who are in this almost that acceptance and that transition in life that, yeah, take a look at that and how would they do it? How can I reflect that? And because seeing when you talk about Shashin, I just it's as an elder told me, he says, capture that state of mind, or capture that image that I saw of her, and her eyes with that otter, but her eyes are just piercing and gentle and deep and spiritual and loving, and so it's like, yeah, so I've captured that.
And maybe as we're kind of winding down, and thank you, Shailene, for always taking care of us, and because me and Jean could just keep going. That so for those of you out there, as Jean described, I think when in her eyes you see God, and just trying to be as connected to your higher power, to God, to kindness. And so the challenge is, and so I challenge you on Wellness Wednesday, just to go out and do some kind things where they don't know about it. Where it isn't like you're doing it to boast it out there. You're just like doing some kind things. Like this is just a protocol around here. Whenever we're out, like in the restaurant, or and you see one of our elders, you always pay for their meal. Or it maybe, and I was just thinking of, because here we always try to do kind things, like get all the winter coats for the kids, or do something kind. I mean, even if pay for everyone's Starbucks behind you. I mean, think of some kind things that in this celebration, because tomorrow is that, and it's a volatile time, but it's also a very resilient, super spiritually loaded time, is to make it that, just uplift everyone, bring the energy into the room. It's because energy you can't see, and just bring it into the room of cherishing, of loving, of just respecting. You can respect, you don't have to always agree. Just respect people's life. And so that's what I would put out there in my closing
Yeah.
comments. What you
and,
think,
and,
James?
and I'm thinking about, again, just like taking inventory, okay, of yourself, your health, wellness, preparation, and all those things, but also just take, and again, I how can I bring a smile to somebody else?
Yeah.
And oftentimes too, when you look in the mirror, that somebody else is you. How can you bring a smile to yourself?
Mm.
And again, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself during this time, these transitions, and um, yeah, and and take little steps. It's one of those things. I'm sitting in this chair right now, and I could be uncomfortable in this moment. But if I could just make a little shift in my chair, I could sit here all day.
Yeah.
And it's just make a little shift, not making a major change, or I'm going to know anything. Just make it a gentle shift, whatever that might be for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they might be for you, and to take a look at that, and just um, go outside and just notice the trees, notice the grass, notice the bees, the birds. Just take notice to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just notice,
Yeah.
and they will, and you noticing them, they will acknowledge you and notice you back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Shoot, I think we ran out of time, Theda.
I know. I was just thinking we'll close, but I was just thinking, Gene, because we did the mirror thing for 21 days. But I challenge everyone, when you go look in the mirror, just look in the mirror and say, damn, you're a badass. Because with all this, everyone wants me to be their badass auntie. So sometimes just say, just say it. Oh, you're a badass. This day's gonna be good. Oh, you're just gonna seize this day, and you're gonna have happiness in your heart. You're gonna have joy. So I that was just my thought. That
And then
I
give,
challenge everyone.
and then give yourself a high five.
Yeah. A kiss, a hug, and a high five. So with that, we'll give you a high five. Every Wednesday, we have Wellness Wednesday on Native. I was almost going to say Native American. I was going to say something else. I'm not going to say. I got this crazy goofy part of me, but Native Wellness Institute. You can see all of our power hours on YouTube. Just dial us in. But with that, we'll say Kitakito Matsuno. We'll see you later.
And next week we got our gathering in Squaxin or Suquamish. Suquamish next week.
Yeah. Yes. So we'll get everybody on, or we'll do something. We'll all be in Bainbridge, 100 wild Indians just healing.
Yeah. Okay, everybody.
Awesome.